All right, so let's start our lecture with the open market. Basically, an open market, by definition, is an economic system with no barriers to free market activity. So in this system, there's nothing stopping international and domestic competition. That is international, there's nothing stopping trading from one country to another. That means when the goods leave America and they go somewhere, let's say Britain, for example, they'll be the exact same price. Nothing stopping trade at all. Even like domestic just means in the country, so you can trade from state to state, city to city, and nothing stopping it at all. Nothing stopping trade. Trade moves freely. Now you might be thinking, well, isn't that how it works? Isn't that just things trade? We get things from China, they get things from ours. We're going to learn later that there are these things called trade barriers which come up in our next slides. So let's take a look at what imports and exports are. Imports are what products you take in from other countries. So an import would be a Japanese car in the United States. That would be an import. An import would be a Sony PlayStation, again, Japan. Maybe a Mercedes-Benz, that could be from Germany. Samsung is a Korean company. So if you buy a Samsung phone, you are buying a Korean product. That would be in import. Export is what you produce and send to other countries. Apple is an American company, so we export Apple products, for example. Ford, if there are Ford cars in other countries, that would be America. We are exporting them, giving them to other countries. Now, in a free market, countries can import more products from other countries and can export what they make. And for consumers, this tends to be a good thing because it means there's a whole lot of options of what you want to buy. It affects competition. Like Apple is an American company, but if you think about it with smartphones and computers, Apple is pushed not just by American companies, but by foreign companies as well. Samsung, again, a good example. Samsung is a Korean company. They are pushing Apple. They push each other. Their competition gives us better products. Because if I don't like an iPhone, I'll take a look at the Samsung Galaxy. So, having an open market, free trade between us and North Korea creates better products for everyone. Now, if we would stop all goods coming in from Korea, that means Apple would have one less competitor, and probably what would happen is it would mean that their products probably wouldn't be as good because they wouldn't have a really strong company pushing them. Not as much. So, the general rule in economics is more competition makes a better product. International competition just opens the door. We're not just looking at competing in America with 300 million people. We're competing with 6 to 7 billion people in the world. But it leads to better products. All right, so producers can benefit as well because they get new markets for their products. So Apple, yes, they can sell in America, but Apple's also interested in selling in China, and they do very well there. They're also interested in selling in Japan and selling in Europe. Apple's all over Europe. It's all over South America. A lot of people around the world want an iPad or an iPhone, for example. So for the producers, if you make a good product, it's really good because you now can sell to billions of people potentially in the world. So McDonald's exports their products all over the world, for better or worse, but they are exporting Big Macs and cheeseburgers all over the world. So basically you sell what you have to get. Oh, excuse me. I said that wrong. Give me 1 second. All right, basically you sell what you have to get what you don't have. Again, I butchered that the first time, but you sell what you have to get what you don't have. So let's look at prices and competition. And again, both consumers and producers benefit. Consumers get an increased selection of goods and services, and this typically makes prices go down. Not only does it make the product better, but usually you have to bring the price down because there becomes a price competition as well. For a lot of computer companies in India, they're trying to make cheaper computer products. Well, why would they do that? Because there's a lot of people in India who can't afford an Apple or a Samsung, so they're trying to find a cheaper product. They're trying to bring the price down. They're trying to make a computer nearly as good for less price. And maybe Indian computer companies will start making products that can compete directly with Apple and Samsung. And it'd be good if they did, because if they made this new technology that's cheap, wouldn't we all want to have it so we could have more products at a cheaper price? So again, It makes competition, which drops prices. Let's look at employment now. Employment means that jobs have to go through changes. And this is where it can get a bit sticky and can get a bit difficult. Like if you're making a product and you work for this company, but all of a sudden a company in Korea, let's say you work for an American computer company, and this company in India all of a sudden makes this new smartphone that you can buy for $200. And it's better than anything Apple has, better than anything Samsung has, and you can buy it for, a cheaper cost, let's say, maybe $100, whatever price would be cheaper than the current smartphones are. Let's say it's half the price. So, if you could buy it for half the price, once you do it, and yeah, that's good for consumers. But what if you work for Apple? It means you might lose your job. And this is where it gets real tough with the open market. I can think of a lot of places, former industrial cities in America like Cleveland, many places like Akron, Ohio, Detroit, Flint, Michigan, where workers were working for companies, but the jobs got moved somewhere else because they could find cheaper labor somewhere else. This happens quite a bit. Like a company may close in Michigan and go to China where you can hire workers for cheaper. Well, the workers then could lose their job in this place. And yes, we might be getting better products for cheaper, but now we have some people who are unemployed. This is one of the problems of the free market. And it's a hard thing to come up with a solution. One solution is say, just don't allow companies to move to China. Don't allow companies to, don't allow Chinese products to come in. But what that means is all consumers will start paying more money because there won't be as much competition. Many economists think the answer is worker retraining. That you have to train these workers how to work in different fields. That the only answer to this would be education, job training. And, again, if America wants to compete in factory jobs, I've mentioned this several times in the course, it probably means we're going to have to go to more robotics, machinery, and our factory workers will probably have to have at least a 2-year degree to be able to work in the factory. Because we have to become more technical to play to our, maximize our efficiency, to play to our strength. If we try to compete with a place like China, if we try to compete with a place like Bangladesh, many places from poorer countries on, lower prices for workers, we're never going to win that one. And we're going to talk about trade barriers in a moment here, but this is a potential problem in the free market, is that the factory can close because of competition from somewhere else. And what do you do with those workers in the meantime who've lost their job? What do you do if a person's 45 years old and worked in a factory his whole life, and suddenly that job goes to China? Do you retrain them? It's tougher. What if they're 50? What if they're 55? This is where we don't really have a solution. The open market does not have a solution for this. And this has been a problem in our modern economy. A lot of people who are unemployed in America don't have the skills for the jobs that exist. They had skills for the jobs that existed 20, 30 years ago, but not for the skills that exist today. So this is a problem. I'll admit this is a problem of the open market, and there is no solution besides workers have to get retrained, workers have to get skills. And this is why I'll tell you all as 17, 18-year-old seniors that the number one thing you can do to compete in an open market is develop skills that people will want for a job. And I would tell you to go into engineering, nursing, one of a field like that where there are jobs available. Well, let's continue now. So jobs go through changes. In the U.S., we've had to switch from manufacturing to technology. Employment manufacturing has gone down in the U.S. But the U.S. has become a technology export leader. And some manufacturing is starting to come back because we've changed our factory system around and made it more computerized. For example, more machines in it. Now, 20% of all U.S. factory jobs, however, depend on exports. So we could say, we don't want to trade with other countries, it's not good, but 20% of our factory jobs depend on exporting our goods to other countries. So we'd be kind of hurting ourselves if we decided we weren't going to export in the free market anymore. We are kind of dependent upon each other, and I'd make an argument over and over again, we should have more free trade and free borders because it benefits more people. The U.S. is the world's leading exporter of goods. We export $900 billion of goods. Yes, we're above China. We are the world's leading exporter of goods. However, we're also the world's leading importer of goods. We import more than we export. we import a whopping $1.7 trillion worth of goods, which is a huge amount. However, the U.S. makes up for this in our GDP, or gross domestic product. We make up for this because we export a lot of services. We export services like travel, tourism, transportation, construction, information systems for other countries, which bring in a lot of money. I don't have an exact number, but they also bring in a lot of money. So, innovation. Innovation in the open market also causes a lot of innovation. It creates competition, which leads to new products. I mean, look at tablets and cell phones. Why have they improved so much? Again, I'll make the argument it's because Samsung, Apple, they are in an open competition. So the free market leads to something we call globalization. And globalization, we got the definition here, you may write it down. The active process of globalizing, the state of being globalized, especially the development of increasingly integrated global economy marked especially by free trade, free flow of capital, and the tapping of cheaper foreign labor markets, which means that the lower skilled jobs tend to go to countries where the workers don't have to be paid very much. That's generally what happens. And if you want to make it in a richer country, you have to develop more high-skilled jobs to be able to compete. We saw this even with a pencil, the iPencil video, where it shows you even something as simple as a pencil. It is part of globalization. The pencil is globalized. The graphite comes from a mine somewhere in, I think, Southeast Asia. The wood comes from the Pacific Northwest of the United States. The rubber comes from rubber trees, potentially from the Brazilian rainforest. Everything comes from a different place, and no one person can put it together. It is put together with a variety of things from all around the world. And we live in a very global economy. Even products, like, Japan, I don't know if you know this, many Japanese cars are made in America. They're made in America and southeastern states of the United States. Japanese company hiring American workers. Many American companies hire workers all over Asia, China. Apple does that a lot. So it's an American product, but yet now there's Chinese workers putting it together. So we're becoming more and more globalized. The key word there is we are integrated around the world. So the word globalization means we are integrated together, and we are basically in this together for better or worse.